This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, nononsenseforex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 158 is brought to us by Bybit. Some of you pointed out to me last week that Bybit is moving away from MT4 and into MT5, which was not music to my ears. But then I come to find out, my rep talked to me and he said, VP, most of your subscribers don't even use MT4. They just trade right on the platform, which I was happy to hear. You can certainly chart on one platform and trade on another. I do. And it seems to be what the majority of you guys are doing. But take note, they are moving away from MT4 into MT5. MT5 traders, rejoice. Boy, do we have a great trading platform for you. And while MT4 was certainly a nice add-on that Bybit had for my traders, it turns out that the reason you guys are with Bybit are for a host of other reasons. It's now like one of the largest trading platforms in the world. Giveaways, promotions, great customer service, all of it. You guys have found out that with Bybit, membership has its rewards. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and we interrupt this defensive series of podcast episodes to interject some offense into the equation. If you guys saw my tweet this past week, this might have been last week, I said, really, crypto, I want to stack dollars. That's all I want to do. I'm so happy just sitting back and doing that, but you're going to really make this difficult, aren't you? And they really are, especially in the altcoin market, too. We have seen Bitcoin drop from 70,000 to just under 61K as I record, and altcoins for absolutely no reason have dropped even more. And we really like when things like this happen. The people who don't know what they're doing end up selling, and the people like us who know exactly what we're doing, we hodl DCA, get a really nice discount on tokens we've always wanted to have or opportunities to add on. Now, I really try my best on this podcast to simply let you know what I'm doing. None of this is financial advice. It never is. It never was. Don't do anything I say. But I just try to be very transparent and tell you guys how I am approaching things. And then you can take that information and, if you want, apply it to your own investing. But this episode is going to approach things a bit differently because, full transparency too, I never talk about my other businesses, not because it's like drug trafficking or anything like that, but I keep everything separate. It's the reason why you don't hear about my family life or my dating life or what sports I'm betting on. I keep all of that separate, right? I've just always thought that was a good idea. But I am starting a new business, and this is a business that's a bit uncomfortable for me because it's not super lean like all my other businesses have been. It's going to take some money out of my pocket to start this thing up. So that is where a lot of my dollars are going, which means there is less of a chance that my dollars are going to be going to investments anytime soon. Now, if I just get an absolute sweetheart deal of a price, I'm probably still going to sneak some over there. But barring that, and I like I said, if I didn't have this coming up, I would probably be buying crypto right now. So just let me put that out there and then just say, if my situation was different, this is what I would be doing. I didn't kill my wife, Nicole, but if I did, this is how I would have done it. And for those of you who don't get that reference, I don't have a wife. Nor did I kill anybody. But moving on, if I was in my normal situation, this is what I would really be looking at these current prices because we have had an irrational drop. We just have. I saw a bit of FUD on Sol this week, even a little bit of FUD on Bitcoin. I'm like, yeah, right. But we've all seen this movie before. And every time this movie comes on, I alert people to it. And then over time, price ends up going right back up, and everybody who partook got a sweet discount and is doing pretty well. So let's see if we can do that again. We'll just have what my podcast partner Rob Reinhold calls cocktail talk. And I'll go to CoinGecko and scroll down and see which ones I would really be looking at this point. Some old positions, some tokens I have never mentioned on this podcast. But let's start with the number one position I would be adding on to. This should not be a big surprise to a lot of you. Actually, take a guess. What do you think it is? If you said Chainlink, give yourself a point. I mean, this thing is just a beast. And then to add on to things, this week, Coinbase derivatives. And derivatives, if you don't know, are over a $1.5 quadrillion market. That's quadrillion with a Q. Coinbase Derivatives just filed with the CFTC to list U.S. regulated futures contracts for Link. And again, second place here is barely on the radar. Second place for oracles right now would probably be Pyth, Pyth for Solana. But even these layer ones that have their own in-house oracle, they still end up using Chainlink for a lot of things. Cardano, for example, has Charlie 3, but they barely ever use it. So yeah, anytime Chainlink pops under $15, I'm usually looking. And it is currently under $15 right now. Next would be Bitcoin. I'm extremely bullish on Bitcoin. This has not changed. It may take a little while longer for us to get to where we want to here, but I am confident we will get there. It is the only token I'm talking about that has a fixed supply of 21 million, probably less. You guys know my thoughts here. Everybody wants more Bitcoin, and that includes me. Next, we have AVAX at under $28. Anytime AVAX goes under 30, I'm looking. And I should back up here. I actually had this written down on my notes before I even got into the cryptos. Just to throw this out there, if you guys are new or don't know, the way I approach things is very different than somebody like Raul Paul, who I really like, by the way. He got absolutely roasted for buying a bunch of call options on ETH right at the top. And people just piled on this guy. I think one of the reasons why they do it, too, is the same reason why people like Peter Zion get it a lot, because they both speak with a lot of confidence, and they're very certain in their positions, which I don't think there's anything wrong with. I do the same thing. But anyway, he just got destroyed for that. But I've learned so much from that guy, just about macro and even crypto and everything else. But the way he approaches things is more like he's trying to play the next big narrative, to where I'm like, good luck with that. You guys know me. I invest in things that are probably out of the narrative or have been out of the narrative for a while sometimes. Like Litecoin, Uniswap, PancakeSwap, things like that. But I'm looking for things that I know work and will be very useful in the future because that's what I'm investing for. So some of this is going to be weird because it's just not in the narrative cycle right now. But as a result, we're getting an even deeper discount on it. And I think that's where AVAX comes into play. Not a lot of people are talking about them anymore. The reason why people were talking about them in the first place was because everybody was too early to the big Web3 gaming run, which we predicted here on the podcast. As much as I glaze over Alex Becker here, I told everybody, look, he's too early. Take note of what he's talking about, and if you agree and you like these things, then sit back and wait because the price is going to come down. And we'll talk about one of those tokens in a moment here, but AVAX, I think the upside here is tremendous. And even though I bought it at under $10 and told all of you about this when it was under $10, at $27, $28, I would be interested in adding on. Now, keep in mind, if I wasn't starting a business and I had all the cash allocated stuff like this, I wouldn't be buying all of these. This is just what I would be looking at, and then I would narrow it down and then decide what I wanted to invest in. But going down that list, and speaking of something that's been out of the narrative for a while, Matic. Last time I mentioned Matic on this show, I mentioned all the partnerships they have. I'm like, guys, they pretty much got their partnerships locked in. There's not much more news to talk about here. Take advantage that this thing is not the current narrative. Because, again, that's what makes them cheap for us. And where are we at with Matic right now? We are at 55 cents. I mean, that's a darn good price. And it's tough to buy tokens like this because nobody's talking about it. And you just don't feel good jumping into something that's just had dead silence for so long. But that's why we do well here. Being out of the narrative cycle to us is a good thing, not a bad thing, because cycles do come back around. And we know Polygon works really well, and has tons of partnerships. Most big companies are not partnering with other layer 2s. And if they are, it's Coinbase's base, which isn't even a token. But let's move on. You can get IMX, which we love here, and we've done very well on, for a lot more than 50% off of its highs. I think the high was about $3.40. We're sitting at a $1.47. To get the best of breed gaming layer in all of Web3, I don't think I need to say much more than that. Illuvium is probably their biggest title at this point. I'm playing the beta right now, as are some of you. It's awesome. It's addictive. It's going to get even more addictive when we have real currency on the line. And for that reason, too, the ILV token is right around $65. That's less than where my average is. My average is closer to 70. Discounts all across the board, people. This episode had to get made. I should mention Arweave, too, as well. Speaking of things we got for $10 or under, I can't remember exactly where I got this, but we took profit on it. I announced it on Twitter, and then it actually went up another $5, $10, I think, but then it fell. So as is often the case, when we take profit, we usually take profit at a very good time. But it has risen to prominence on CoinGecko. It is now at 56 on CoinGecko. It's a strong spot, man. If you're looking for a storage play, and why would you not look for a storage play? This one is still my favorite. So let's go ahead and move on to tokens I may have never mentioned on this podcast. I might have mentioned it once or twice on the blog. But if you like AVAX, and you like them for gaming reasons, I don't understand why the price of Beam has sunk so low. Beam is AVAX's gaming layer. It was all the rage, and they merged with Merit Circle, which was also all the rage there for a while. Yet somehow the community has treated it like Terra Luna, and it has gone from spot 04 to spot 015. I think we're taking advantage here of the fact that people in the gaming space are not long-term holders compared to other spaces. That works really well for us. It probably also helps, too, that you can only buy Beam on the AVAX blockchain, so I think through Trader Joe. But I would almost sign up for Trader Joe and buy it at these prices. Not financial advice. What else? Render is very interesting. If you're looking for something that is a Metaverse Web3 play and an AI play, and potentially a real-world asset play. Render is attempting to be all those things. It is becoming more and more established. And again, I like these larger cap plays, as opposed to going further down the list and trying to pick these lower cap winners too early in the game. So again, we're getting so much deep value here, whilst Bitcoin sits there at 61K. Now, Render might not quite be offering the deep value some of these other tokens I mentioned are giving you, but I think a lot of people have woken up to this token, and we're still getting a discount off of it, just not a ridiculous one. But what we are getting a ridiculous discount on, maybe. And if anybody has better information on this, please chime in the YouTube comments section. For those of you on the podcast players, this podcast does go straight to YouTube, and you can go check it out there. Please give me a thumbs up while you're there. That'd be nice. And go down to the comments section and let me know. Also, let me know, too, what are you guys buying right now, if you're buying anything? Which crypto tokens are you scooping up while we have this discount? But the final one I wanted to mention is, what happened to Curve? Curve DAO, ticker symbol CRV. I know they got hacked, and there was a big mess, but there's been hacks and big messes with other DeFi tokens, too, but they haven't dropped like this. Curve has dropped all the way down to 183 on CoinGecko, still has a $350 million market cap, topped out at $6.51 back in 2022, and currently sits at 28 cents. I mean, something must have happened, but is it still viable? Those of you who are deep into the DeFi game, is Curve still a usable product? Do you still use it? Did you use it before? Let me know, because DeFi isn't getting talked about a whole lot right now, unless you're just doing silly shit on Sol, but it is going to have a resurgence, and I would like to be well-positioned when it does. And is Curve DAO worth taking a flyer on here? Let me know. I would have done a bit more research on this, but I literally found it this morning, because I had damn near forgotten about it. Now, there are a couple of tokens that I left out on purpose because I want to make dedicated episodes about them. But those would be the 8 or 9 tokens I would be looking at right now to either add on to or purchase for the first time, thanks to this irrational drop in prices in the altcoin market. We at this podcast are almost fully in defensive mode, but if markets are going to give us discounts on a silver platter like this, you can't just sit there and look at it and watch other people take part. Because even in the crypto market right now, trading volume is at all-time lows. Nobody is talking about altcoins. Why on earth would you buy when the narrative is not there? That's crazy. Because we're not crazy. We're just early.